I'm Paul, and we're joined today with Mike from RGS Restorations, and today we are going to talk Schuetzen shooting. And we are at the Black Wolf Schuetzen Verein, which is one of the oldest clubs in the United States. It's been around since 1858, and it's always been a Schuetzen club. So we're going to discuss what is it, how you do it. We're going to look at some of the rifles, and we are going to discuss loading, how you load for it, how I prep, and how Mike's shooting his rifle. It's a very individual sport, and each rifle is a little bit individual, so there's going to be a lot to cover, and we'll be getting into that. So here we go.
All right, so Paul, as you said in the introduction, today is going to be all about Schuetzen, and we have a lot of components laid out here. We've also got 2 rifles laid out here. I guess what I'd like to do is ask some questions first from the standpoint of a new shooter. Me being a new shooter, I'm not new to the shooting sports, but definitely Schuetzen, I think we can say I'm fairly new at, only doing it but a couple times here, which is very enjoyable. But looking at it from that standpoint, so a guy goes out, buys himself a rifle, okay, and I think we can agree that the rifle is only a fraction of the battle when it comes to shooting Schuetzen.
I would say it's the smallest component.
Okay.
It's a very important component in that it has to be accurate, but it is a very, in the grand scheme of things, with everything taken into account, it's a very small part of the, just with and then I think that'll make itself evident as we move through the cycle.
Sure. Okay. So yeah. moving forward from there, so you've got your gun and your chosen caliber. Where do you like to start? I guess would be a good place to start here. I see you have a loading block here with your cartridge cases and a powder measure. You've got a couple of hand primers. Where do you like to start when you're setting?
I'll go through my loading process, which Schuetzen is so individual. It's very unique. So the process that works for me could be completely different than a process for somebody else. And it probably almost is going to, there's going to be similarities, right? I mean, you have to get powder in the case, you have to prime the case and all that.
Sure.
But everybody kind of is going to develop their own method that works the best for them and their flow. Okay. And I think that's the important part. Everybody's going to develop a flow that works for them. And I think the biggest thing to start right off with is, one of the common questions I get from guys that, kind of are exploring this and come down here that I've tried to introduce them to it, they're shooters. They see the mechanical breech seating aspect and they generally throws them off. For whatever reason, they're really not liking it. And like one of the big questions is, shooting fixed ammo. So before we even get into anything else,
okay,
I'm just going to say, in my opinion, shooting fixed ammo is out. If you're going to shoot Schuetzen, you got a breech seat. Or you are just going to, you're already taking a very hard sport and you're making it way harder on yourself.
Difficult. I have a little bit of personal experience with this from the first time we were out here trying to shoot fixed ammo. And while I got okay accuracy, it was still lacking in certain ways. So I think that's probably an important thing to touch on too. That accuracy, or the level of accuracy you're trying to get with these firearms, is only going to be achieved through the breech seating process.
Yeah, you can shoot fixed ammo, but if you really want to be competitive, if you're going up against someone who's breech seating, you're never gonna be there. This is not going to happen.
Okay.
I mean, there's a reason it's been done since pre-pulse. I mean, it went from muzzle loading to breech seat. So yeah, no, it's definitely you got a breech seat. But as far starting back around, so I'll just touch on what I have and why my stuff looks so different. So I developed my own cartridge, so to speak. I have plenty of 3240s, 3055s. I have all the calibers. I just wanted something one different and that was going to be accurate.
Okay.
And so I settled on this way before the 6.5 craze hit. But mine is a 6.5.
All right.
And I took a 357 case and I put a 6.5 Japanese neck on it, and I necked it down. Now I don't have a real long neck because these aren't fixed. So my neck portion is long enough for stabilization, to get the job done.
Sure.
But I wanted as much case capacity, but I went with the 357 to have less case capacity. The 3240 is a super accurate cartridge, and there are shorter versions of it that are used for Schuetzen. It can be argued whether they're more accurate or not, but I think the efficiency, I think it's a pretty well accepted fact that the efficiency of case capacity versus powder charge is going to go up with a smaller case. So all that being said, to summarize what I'm saying is Schuetzens are floating at pretty low pressure. Mine's running a little bit hotter than a lot of guys, just the way where it wants to be accurate. But I mean, these rifles are going to stay at around 13, 14, maybe 1,500 feet per second.
Sure.
So anyway, mine is a 6.5. I took the 357, 6.5 Japanese shoulder on it. The other reason I chose the 357 case is I wanted small rifle primers, just for increased accuracy over the large primer. And then, another one being the plentifulness of 357 cases. So as these get burned out, they are plentiful and cheap. So
easy to form, I'm guessing.
Easy to form, yep. So, but it's a 6.5. I find that I didn't really have to get fancy with a lot of different molds. This one just happens to be the Seiko Redding mold. It's 140 grain.
Okay.
And I run soft alloys, and that's another thing that you're going to want to do with, when you're casting bullets for Schuetzen, is the alloys are very, very soft. Nothing hard.
Which is a good point, if I could stop you right there for a second. It's something I was going to lead into and ask. I think now's a good time. This is a cast bullet sport. We're not shooting jacketed bullets, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
Make that a point.
Traditional Schuetzen, cast bullets. It's offhand.
Okay.
It's 200 yards. It's cast bullets, no gas checks.
Okay.
And you cannot shoot from any kind of a supported position. You can't lean against anything or support yourself in any way, shape, or form. Okay. It's purely an offhand sport.
Okay. All right.
So, soft cast lead, 140 grain. Mine is a 6.5, and I just drew up the cartridge, and I had a company make the reamer for it, and then a throating reamer, because there's no throats. In most target shoots, and they don't have a free bore section. It's just a tapered rifling. So when you're breech seating, there's a lot that's different there, and we probably won't get into those concepts too deep here. But anyway, they're just as an aside, they're just a creature of completely different level. But yeah, and as far as the procedure, so these cases I already have primed, but I'll just show now. I just have my Pope style tool here in these cases, so it's basically depriming my cases. And this is how I'll do it with the whole 10. If I'm going to shoot a string, and Schuetzen is a string of 10. Okay. One round, for a round of Schuetzen, it's a string of 10 shots. So I will preload my 10 cases ahead of time. I know some people will shoot one case at a time. I don't do that. I don't. And the reason they'll do that is to promote, absolute accuracy. They'll only use one case, but it's offhand. I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with it. I load up all of my cases at once, and so from there I will charge each case. Normally, I would say proper etiquette for, come on, get in there, for at the bench shooting is if you see a guy that's charging his cases, you leave them alone and don't talk to them
Sure.
while they're charging their cases. I do it in a very specific order every single time, and I never vary from it. I've seen double charges, I've seen firing pins end up in the wall behind us.
Well,
And
that's a good point to make here with us talking about this. A lot of these powders being used are not
right.
conventional rifle powders. If
They're not. And just to get into that, like, with what I'm using, I have been using Accurate number 9 for a long time. And I just started messing around with 2400.
Okay.
So this is kind of a new powder a new load that I'm messing around with today. But, and that's a whole other component of the Schuetzen game is what it's going to want for a powder charge. You're not going with loading data out of loading books to shoot Schuetzen.
You will not find this stuff in conventional books like a Lyman or Hornady book or something. You're not going to find that.
We'll move on to my rifle here in a little while, but like I have a Stevens and you're shooting a Ballard in 3240, and I know you're shooting blue dot out of that one.
Yes.
And I'm shooting 2400 out of mine, and
yeah, just from the safety standpoint, like you really have to be on point as far as what you're doing. Just to go back to what you were talking about with leaving the guy alone when he's charging his cartridge cases and stuff, because it's
that's the common.
Yeah. Well, that's what you should be. Yeah, should be doing anyway. But most of these powders, it is easy to double charge and then some.
Yeah, so on that one there, it's 9.5 grains, and on this one here, I think I'm at 7.8.
Right. And that 3240 case has plenty of room to fit.
Right, which is why guys are shooting the 32 millers and stuff like that, and shortening them down, is to just improve that efficiency, because so much of that case is just wasted. Correct. And that's the other thing. Schuetzen is a smokeless powder game. It is not a black powder game.
No, certainly not. Certainly not. Okay, so you've got we're to the point where you've got your cases primed here now, and I see the breech seater tool sitting next to you there. So where do you go from here when you're prepping the rifle and actually getting ready to load a cartridge? And
shoot? This is the mechanical breech seater.
Okay.
And again, this is a tool that you have to make. I made this one, and what we're doing with the breech seating is there's a couple ways to do it. You can either hand breech seat or use a mechanical seater. Traditionally, mechanical seaters have been around for a long time, but the trend has been over the years of Schuetzen is to have a lot more driving bands with heavier bullets, and they get really difficult to hand seat. And like, if you want to just show that one there,
this is
there's your traditional hand seater.
Hand seater.
Yep. And for that 3240 that you're using there, it's good enough to push them up in there, and those bullets are fully engaged into the rifling.
Yes.
There's you're usually about a 1/16 of an inch in front of the case rim is traditionally where you want your bullet to go. So for people who are wondering how these things work, and I'll show it going into the rifle, you just take your mechanical seater, you put the bullet in it, and then that goes into the into the chamber of the gun, and as you push it forward, it shoves it up into the barrel.
Okay.
So
it's a camming action that will
yes, it is.
push that bullet.
It is a camming action.
Okay.
So, and we'll go ahead and we'll show that now.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, so as far as the mechanical breech seater goes, we just grab a bullet here, and so there's a lug on the seater, and that's going to fit into the back side of the lug on the inside of the receiver. So I just shove the case in there, I rotate it to engage, and I shove the lever forward, and that's it. That takes that bullet and it pushes it all the way up into the rifling, and it's going to sit about a good solid 1/16 of an inch in front of the case mouth.
Okay.
So
1/16 of an inch is where you want to be.
Yep, that bullet is completely in the barrel and completely supported
Okay.
everywhere. So there's absolutely no guesswork at all as to what's going on with it.
No jump, nothing
Nope.
like that to
Nope,
worry
nope,
about.
nope. And that is essential for Schuetzen.
Okay.
Okay, now that we have our bullet breech seated up into the rifle, I will take my charged powder case, and I think one of the things every single time is you lift the gun up and set the gun back down the same exact way every single time. I want that powder to come to the back of the case, and then if any of it, when it falls forward, I want it to be consistent each and every time. So I'm lifting that up and then I'm setting it back down each time. A lot of times I'm just going, and shooting from that point with it. But that's,
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as far as fillers or anything like that, is that something that's used?
No.
Because we are not using fillers here today. But is that
so
something?
sometimes if I'm doing like a 100-shot match where I have a whole bunch of cases that I want to have charged up, I'll take a thin piece of floral foam and I'll put floral foam over the case mouth just to prevent any spilling, because powder will spill out in these cases or in these chambers and it creates a mess. These guns are super fussy. If you have any kernels of powder whatsoever, yeah, it creates a mess.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so at this point, the rifle is loaded. It's charged up. It's ready to go. Where do you go from here?
Set the trigger and take a shot.
Okay. Well, we should I'd like to see that. So
All right.
absolutely.
All right. So I set the trigger and I'm going to lift it up. I'm going to pull the hammer back
Okay.
and I'm going to take a shot. And that's it.
Okay.
And we have a little bit of wind today, but that one, 19,
Okay.
2 o'clock. So
Okay.
anyway, yeah.
Okay. That's the process for the loading and firing. I noticed the palm rest on there. I don't know if we can maybe talk about that just for a minute or two. The palm
So
rest
traditional
and,
Schuetzen rifles always are going to have a palm rest. The German rifles generally didn't use palm rest. Palm rests are very much an Americanized portion of it. This
Okay.
is a swiveling type palm rest.
Okay.
I mess around with palm rests constantly. I don't know
Okay.
why I do, but I would, like the other day when we were out shooting, I had a different palm rest on there.
Sure. Is
I don't
it
know.
a more round one? So
Yeah.
that's one of those things that you were talking about, which is definitely personal preference.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Palm rest, a personal preference. Scope power, personal
Also
preference. This is
personal
a pretty
preference.
powerful uneural on here because
Sure.
I like a lot of magnification. Some people don't like it because it really whips the target around. Some people like the target to move, float a lot slower.
Okay. Now, while we're on that with the topic of scopes for a second, with both of these rifles, kind of they're both uneural scopes, different magnification, of course. But does a guy absolutely need one of these vintage inertals to do this? I mean,
No,
yes,
it's
they
not.
look very, very, very traditional, and they look the part. But if a guy did not have the funds to purchase one of these vintage scopes, could he get away with using a newer
absolutely.
scope of
Yeah.
similar power?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I think not using one of these and going with a modern scope would be more in line with the Schuetzen tradition than maintaining these old vintage scopes. That's my opinion, but Schuetzen has always been about innovation, using the best that was available. And I mean, while these are cool and while they still work really well, I mean, I don't think one of these, as far as brightness goes and image quality, is going to compete with a modern
Sure.
quality scope.
Right. With
You know,
coated glass.
as nice as they are, and
Yeah.
you know,
And they are
they
very
look
cool.
appropriate.
Yes, they are very cool.
But-
They certainly look the part. But speaking of looking the part for a second, I do have to ask. Again, we've got both of these rifles out here. This is an original number 6 Ballard, and then we have your Stevens 44.5 here. I just have to ask. Looking at yours, it looks very purpose-built, shall we say, specifically to shoot and accomplish a task. There really wasn't too much by way of embellishments on that rifle.
well, you know, okay. It came about, I built this rifle up, and a friend of mine, Tim Adlam, who's a very good engraver, who's excellent artist and engraver. We were both building our Schuetzen rifles at the same time. He started molding like plastic stuff on a stock, which is very Leonard Muse-like, because his Schuetzen rifle looked like crap as well.
Okay.
He had things screwed to it.
Okay.
Tim at least used modern epoxies
Okay.
and molded them. But in a nutshell, it kind of came to a thing where we were in competition as who could have the ugliest rifle.
Okay. Okay. So that was a purpose built to look this way.
Well, with the layout die still dripping down the receiver,
Sure,
it's been there for over 20 years.
Okay.
So it looks like heck, but this is a sub MOA rifle all day long.
Okay. Well, in this case, it's one of those instances where looks don't count, except for what the target looks like.
I've been threatening for over 20 years to finally finish it, and I never have.
Okay.
At this point, I'm really not sure I want to anymore.
Why mess with a good thing, right?
So yeah, it looks it looks like hell, but I guess that was kind of the running joke
Okay.
the whole time. It was in keeping with tradition of, like I say, probably Leonard Muse,
Sure.
who is kind of on a side note. I mean, you know who Leonard is.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
a very high-end stalker for Weatherby back in the day, and his rifles just look terrible. They looked worse than this.
This is his personal. I mean, he would of course.
That was
have
his
never-
Schuetzen rifle when he shot here.
Okay.
They looked like crap. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was usually a beaten up 52, Winchester 52, and just, it was terrible. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That kind of history even.
So the only other thing I will say about my rifle is I modified this action heavily to have a hanger on it.
Okay.
So when I do put my flat bottom forend for bench, you know, nothing ever touches the barrel. This is free floating.
So that was purpose built to float this barrel, unlike your standard setup.
Right, like you take an old Ballard and most old Stevens,
Okay.
you know, Winchesters, it doesn't matter. They're not floating. This was modified,
Okay.
you know, purely. So the cartridge case, the cartridge, the bullet choice, everything, you know, what I did to the action was all for just pure performance.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Wrapped in what looks like a turd. So,
Well, I certainly can't wait to see what it will do for a 10-shot group.
well, I got one down there. It's pretty windy today, so
It is.
we'll see what we get. All right, so you're shooting today a Ballard number 6.
Correct. This is actually your dad's rifle, correct?
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
That is
I'll
correct.
just say thank you to Ron for letting me shoot this. It's a fantastic rifle. I just had to put that out
Yeah,
there.
so he's shot, I think the best he's shot with that rifle, what did I say? He shot like a 231, like a two.
I think he said somewhere around a 230, which
Yeah.
all it takes is one 10-shot string to understand what a challenge that is. So
Yeah.
that's an impressive score.
Unfortunately, the original clubhouse burned down. He had it on the wall of the original clubhouse,
Okay.
and it burned down, so that target's lost to the ages.
Oh, well,
Unfortunately.
that's unfortunate.
But anyway, that's not super uncommon for someone who shoots a lot of Schuetzen that has a good rifle.
Sure.
So,
And
yeah.
this is certainly that. So it's a 3240. We're shooting
Yep. 3240.
150 grain bullets,
Yes,
cast bullets, size to 321,
size is 321.
and we're also using blue dot powder.
Yeah, what is it, 9.5 grains of
And
blue dot?
9.5 grains. We
Yep.
settled on 9.5 grains and Winchester large rifle primers.
Yes.
So it's even with the wind, like you pointed out, it's been shooting pretty well this morning. So we'll see if we can keep that up.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we want to just go ahead and
Sure, show us how you breech seat one with a mechanical, or with a hand seater.
Well, the process is somewhat similar. You're still placing the bullet inside the case like so, and these fit quite a bit better. They don't need really the mechanical seater. I think we were talking about this earlier this morning. So you just you take the seater with your palm and just give her a good push. And there it is, seated up real well, 16th. From this point forward, the process is very much the same as what you showed with your rifle. Now,
Yep.
I had previously charged these cases, going back to what you talked about, individual preference. I kind of prefer to weigh out every charge. It takes a little bit longer, but it's just something I like to do. It pretty much all but guarantees that I'm not putting too much into that one case.
Absolutely.
As long as I'm paying attention to my loading block.
And there's that, like I said, everybody's going to have their own style on their own flow of how they do it.
So go ahead and get that case in there. And settle the powder back. Now this one also doesn't have a recoil spring on the scope, so
I'm not sure why Dad doesn't have one on there, but it doesn't.
Okay, now we'll see what that did. We really got some wind coming our way right now.
Yeah,
so I don't know
you're
if
17 at 4 o'clock.
17 at 4 o'clock. I just, it's like I said earlier, I seem to have a knack today for touching the trigger off as soon as we get a wind gust coming across. So.
So bullet lube that I'm using, I am just using Alox Javelina. The Javelina brand Alox. And it started raining on us.
Yeah, I noticed.
So the nice thing about this style of shooting, the way we do it here, is all inside. Oh, there we go. This has been done.
Oh, the 25.
The 25. That bell is, I don't know how old that bell is, but that is something that's been done out here forever.
Still shooting.
Ring the bell.
What's that?
Ring the bell.
Really? Awesome.
Gotta do it. There you go. Yeah, 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna point out, a Schuetzen target has a bullseye of 1.5 inches. Each ring is 3/4 of an inch. So that is not the easiest target
No.
to, you know, be super awesome. Normally the Schuetzen targets, when we have our matches, they go all the way to 1. It's a huge target. It takes up the whole target area down there. We just condense these down to go only out to the 15-yard or to the 15 ring. But essentially, that's the bullseye is 1.5 inches. Each ring is 3/4 of an inch, and the wind is being a pain here, but that's it in a nutshell. So even keeping it within the 15 ring is probably equivalent to the black on like a NRA 300-yard target. Or close to it, 10 ring.
I would say. Yeah, I didn't pull that into the bullseye. It's a very involved process.
It is, and it's slow. Like I said, I went and whipped through my shots because I thought we were going to get rained out. So when you're shooting that fast, it's very hard to get good at, to shoot accurate. You're just,
Sure.
This is a slow,
Sure.
relaxing process. Now, I will say, talking about slow and relaxing process. I'm not sure where that was, but having been down here since I was just a tiny little kid growing up around this.
Right.
All the old guys, now I am not saying that this is what you should do, but they all had their beer steins and they were consuming beer. Now, that being said, I gotta say, I've never seen any of them like doing anything stupid on the firing line, but they would have have their beer steins, and it was about the the fellowship of shooting and
the camaraderie,
Yeah.
as opposed to
Right.
solely the shooting itself.
it's about the shooting and doing the shooting, but it literally is also about the fellowship of the sport. And like I said, I whipped through my 10 shots really fast,
Sure,
but
sure.
normally it's like way more slow and laid back. So it is a laid back shooting discipline that it's not for everybody, but
Yeah. Well, thanks for walking us through that today as far as
Yeah.
the process. I would say if anybody has any questions from this point forward, they can feel free to ask or leave something in the comments section.
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we only scratched the surface of it.
Sure.
There's a whole lot, lot more that could be gone into on just the techniques and the loads and how it's done, and oh geez.
Just kind of a primer. It was nice to get out here and just do kind of a primer as far as what a person can at least expect once they get to the firing line. And like we said earlier on, I mean, the rifle, while it's an integral part of this sport, is pretty much a fraction a fraction of the overall, as far as what components an individual needs
Right.
and things like that. And to your point about the individualistic nature of it, that's largely gonna determine what a person purchases, correct?
Yeah, definitely. From spotting scopes. Now I have target cameras, which are awesome.
Unbelievably handy.
Yeah. So it's the long shot target camera system, and we're not sponsored by anybody here. They're great. I love those things, and I will never go back to not be using them with stuff. The powder measure that I use is a Harrell's.
Okay.
I do not find it necessary to weigh each charge with this thing. It is just so accurate when you're using like a smaller, at these smaller powder charges. It's like it throws within a tenth every single time.
Sure.
For offhand work, there's just no need to be stressing over being
Anything
more accurate than that.
Sure.
So, but yeah, the equipment one uses, how you do it, how you go about it. And you're used to doing a lot of competition shooting in the vintage sniper stuff and all that.
Well,
CMP
right,
stuff.
yeah. The vintage sniper competition is a team competition. It's
Okay.
also prone. There are several other competitions I've shot in, offhand competitions.
Okay.
But having said that, this is still by far the most challenging. This is still by far the most challenging to shoot. I mean the mechanics and I mean your breathing techniques and things like that. I mean, of course that's going to be the same regardless of shooting discipline. But as far as the size of the target, how you hold or rather balance this rifle, I think might be a good way of putting it too. It's different. I mean that in a good way. I've done quite a few different shooting disciplines, and this one so far has proven to be far and away my favorite. So
I don't know. I think what separates this is one, it's offhand, but it's the type of offhand. It's not a service rifle. These rifles are heavy.
They are
Heavy.
12 to 15 pounds.
I think that one is 19.
19. Okay, that's
So,
a hefty. That's a hefty gun.
Yeah. So it's there's just nothing else like it. It's pretty unique. It used to be extremely popular in the United States, and then it just kind of dissipated, faded. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of members here at all anymore, and almost nobody's shooting Schuetzen.
Sure.
Which kind of stinks, but
Well,
what do you do?
Hopefully, if anybody watches, if anybody decides they want to watch these videos and kind of get a taste of this, hey, the Black Wolf Wolf Club here would be a good place to come and try it out. So.
Absolutely. So if you have any questions, any comments, leave the comments below. See what questions you might have, and we'll answer it. But if you like the video, give us a thumbs up, and until next time, keep your powder dry.